Oh, and boy, do we have a good kickoff show for you. This is the first and only time I can say to the audience, Happy New Year. This is our first show of 2022, and couldn't find a better guest. Steve Reinhardt, who is the CEO of Artificial Intelligence Technology Solutions. We'll probably be calling it AITX through much of the interview. But Steve, welcome to the program.
Rick, thank you very much for having me. It's such a great show, and I do enjoy our conversation. So having one that's public, I think will be very interesting.
Great, let's get started. So you created Artificial Intelligence Technology Solutions in 2021. Last year, what was the motivation for creating AITX as the parent of robotic assistant devices?
Rick, actually, the company that became Artificial Intelligence Technology Solutions, AITX, was acquired by me in 2017. So I first formed the primary operating subsidiary, which is, we abbreviate it to RAD. And then I did a reverse split into a public company, which I took control of. And then I changed the name of that company to Artificial Intelligence Technology Solutions. That's kind of how the business flow went.
And why?
Well, it's, when you're a founder, you've got various ways to fund, right? And really funding is critical. I don't have to explain that to anybody on the phone. And, with how I wanted to build and grow this company, I wanted to have a structure and a format where it could be led individually. And the strings weren't pulled by a strong investor group or a venture capitalist or private equity group. And, a lot of risks associated with however you fund. And in this particular case, I chose this public vehicle as our funding vehicle because it allowed me, under certain circumstances, to retain full control. In this venture, to execute this vision, this is what I feel we need.
And you speak with a lot of confidence about this subject. So I'm wondering, have you in your career had previous experience that informed how you decided to structure your companies at this point?
Yeah, certainly. The bulk of my previous ventures were bootstrapped throughout the entire venture. So after I had run my first, large company from when I was 23 to 31, I joined a few other companies, one which had a big exit. And so it gave me a lot of exposure to different ways to fund and the pitfalls and the challenges. So when I made this decision, it certainly was, I feel, from a position of knowledge and experience, yeah.
So were there any major or minor pivots over the past year in how you're kind of structuring the companies and their relationship?
Yeah, we had a major pivot, which nearly cost us the company.
Oh
yeah, big deal. So the first product that we launched with in 2016 didn't end up working. And the market and the investors, abandoned us. And we had to make the decision, do we persevere? Do we reform? Do we regroup? Do we tighten our belts? Do we make this happen? Do we continue on this mission? And we did. And the market responded. And we've been rewarded with an incredible investor community, funding on excellent terms. And we're all systems go now, but for all intents and purposes, the odds were horrifically stacked against us.
Yeah, that's all too common in early stage and companies. We interview a lot of entrepreneurs over the years, Steve, and in my personal experience, having been an entrepreneur for the past decade plus, is you can never be sure of the future in your business, regardless of how great the past was. And there's always something that you have to kind of worry about and focus on. But before we get into that conversation, for the benefit of the audience, let's talk about the firms that you are leading and growing. So just give them an overview of what it is you're building here.
It's timing is so important, right? I mean, it's just something that you can't predict, you can't bank on, but when it happens, it's amazing. And, for all the tragedy and misery that COVID has produced and continues to produce, there's two sides of every coin. And the issues related to labor have worked in our benefit. And it's a bit of a workup to share with you what we do. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that's happened in COVID is we've had elderly workers abandon the workforce. They're not coming back. Obviously, we've had a bit of a population decline with, sickness and death. And we've had a very remarkable thing happen that's never happened before, which is the younger workforce is not as interested as previous workforces to take entry-level jobs. They've got money coming in from different sources. They're resourceful on a level that we haven't seen in the world, and they're making their own things happen. But from a traditional business standpoint, we're not getting those low-income workers to work on these jobs. And it's affected, we see it, it's affected fast food, warehousing, logistics, drivers, and it's affected the industry that I come from, which is security. So it's extremely difficult today to staff security guard positions for those reasons that I mentioned, among others. What we have done is we have come up with a line of devices, hardware, software, cloudware, mobileware, that can perform a lot of functions that security guards would generally be hired to perform. We're bringing AI and automation and specific devices to perform those jobs. And that is the problem that we're solving. And that's why this issue of timing is working in our favor right now.
So it sounds like what you're talking about are the products developed in RAD, right?
Certainly.
Okay, so what is unique about the way you're approaching this opportunity and the problems that you're solving?
Our entire approach is unique and is not being done anywhere, period. Wow. What we've done is we've created a series of devices that all work together, like I said, to perform those security guard and facility positions. So everything from bringing autonomy and better security and processes to how a vehicle gets through a secure gate, how an employee gets through a secure door, how we prevent vandalism, break-ins, trespassing, how we improve the feeling of safety and security in an area, which in turn pushes or theoretically pushes, bad things from happening in that territory. So we call it autonomous remote services. And there's a book publicly available that we wrote a couple of years ago on this, and 4,000 or 5,000 individual downloads of it so far. So, which I think is a pretty good number given, our industry and the fact I'm not spending millions of dollars on promotion. So pretty excited about that. And it's completely a novel approach. It's really part of the fourth industrial revolution.
So from visiting your website, what I've seen is you have stationary devices, as you mentioned, for maybe ingress and egress for people coming and going, and a variety of those. And you also have autonomous remote devices. I have seen, and I have been at trade shows where they've been exhibited years ago, not years ago, but recently when trade shows were happening. But let's talk about that aspect of it, only because of for me, it kind of has a cool factor to it a little bit, which are the robotic, I call them security guards. But can you share a little bit about their function in a workplace?
The mobile robotics get a lot more attention. The stationary devices are more functional, a little less sexy.
Yeah.
But they do the job. The stationary devices do the heavy lifting. They provide tremendous return on investment back to their end users. The mobile devices are cool. I mean, we got a dog in partnership with Ghost Robotics out of Philadelphia. So we have a technical collaboration. We'll be bringing our junkyard dog, to market this calendar year, which is just wild, right? Bringing dogs. We of course have our huge 750-pound, 7-foot tall Romeo, which is an incredible mechanical and autonomous platform, which is going to start patrolling areas this month in California and Texas. So the first 2 units will be on site over the next couple of weeks. And those are the products that we've got slated either in market or coming to market this year on the mobile security guard side.
So there seems to me to be, in the technology field, there usually has to be some type of a breakthrough that allows this step function performance and different offerings, like a mobile. I can only imagine what the experience has been deploying devices like that in the test case and getting them ready for distribution. So talk to us a little bit about how the technology now, from your perspective, is enabling you to build this grid of intelligent devices that not only stand alone and do their job, but they actually work in kind of combination with one another to provide security.
Rick, you hit it on the head. This entire industry, and like I said, the fourth industrial revolution is enabled by new technology. And I'll tell you the story really quick. I was working with NVIDIA years ago, and they showed me some kind of emerging tech that they were working on, which was kind of a handheld processor that was able to run, I'll just simplify it and call it artificial intelligence analytics on this chip that people were carrying around in their hand. And I was like, I literally took a look at it, coming from the security industry. I took a look at it and I said, I'm going to create a security robot based on that. Mm-hmm. And that's really where it took off. Now, the ability to do that type of processing at the edge in low power, low cost devices enables the object recognition, and which triggers all types of interaction, right? So that's a key element that enabled what we do. And the second piece was it enables the autonomous movement. So, when you're moving a vehicle, there's a lot of processing so you don't hit people and you go the right way and you don't get lost and you don't, fall into areas. So it's really the technological development of having more processing power at the edge is what enabled the entire business.
So I find it so fascinating, Steve, and I appreciate you being here and sharing your experience in this space, because I would think on one hand, clients might be a bit skeptical for whatever reason about the functionality and the performance. But then on the other hand, they may be overly enthusiastic about the promise of what it can do. So from a entrepreneur's perspective, how do you set the expectations of a new client so that they're not so they're not disappointed with what the outcome of the solution is that you can provide in today's state of the technology?
I'll share with you that at this very moment, we're servicing some of the world's largest companies right now, which, as you know, is a pretty remarkable feat for any company, let alone a kind of scrappy tech startup like we are, right? So we're in really good company, and I'm grateful and appreciative, and we work hard for that every day. The industry itself, from a security and facilities standpoint, are very conservative. You don't have a lot of early adopters in the space. And what's worse is you have a history of manufacturers over-promising technological developments in the industry.
Right.
So you kind of have a bit of a jaded industry.
Yeah.
And it's created some barriers and obstacles to adoption, no question about it. But because we have great partners in the industry, for example, Allied Universal, headquartered out of Santa Ana, world's largest security company, because they've bought into what we're doing, that's really helped catapult us into some huge clients, and we're working on the adoption. We have we'll be up to 7 full-time salespeople next Monday on January the 10th, and we've got momentum, and we just grind away. We grind away to prove that our solutions work, and we've got very little attrition.
So we're talking with Steve Reinhardt, and I appreciate his time. I'd like to kind of look at the artificial intelligence aspect of your solution, because there's been a lot of interest in the promise of how it can increase business efficiency and create cost savings, and now address this shortage issue, which has popped up relative to COVID. It really accelerated the manpower shortage piece. But I'm wondering if you could share with the audience a specific application or maybe a use case where you've been able to demonstrate the business efficiencies and cost savings.
An easy way is, let's say you have a house of worship and you're getting vandalized. You don't have the money to necessarily put a guard up, right? And you're not going to sit there. It's an area of conflict if you put a human there. Our devices at this point are proven to reduce or eliminate those instances of vandalism, reduce or eliminate instances of loitering, aggressive panhandling, those types of issues that are issues that spiral into high risk confrontation items, depending on who shows up to try to make the person go away or handle the issue. We're doing it autonomously, hands off, no humans involved, and it works. Just as one example of what we do.
Yeah, as you were explaining that, I was thinking, I've got a Ring doorbell. I was recently over the holidays away. I could interact with people that came to my door, and it was a very effective way to understand and then I have cameras around the outside too. But anyway, I digress. The point being, technology is infiltrating people on a consumer level as well, that are giving them some of the same advantages of what you're doing, only in a much more sophisticated way. So I would think that people's personal experience with technology and its usefulness might be also a benefit when you're sitting with the pastor or whoever at the church and explaining how you might be able to help them.
Absolutely, but not just that. I mean, we're starting out in B2B, and depending on how much we get through this year, we may have a consumer-related product as well. Just kind of how our strategy has been. Our strategy is to bring these types of solutions, these labor-saving solutions, to as many markets, industries, and areas as we can.
Well, you'll have to come back on Critical Mass Business Talk Show when you launch your